It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen, the podcast and YouTube series where tattoo artists and body piercers answer some of the more common questions and concerns that people that collect tattoos and piercings have, and other body modifications. Brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio in Death Before Decaf. So let's join this. This time we're going to be talking about
planning tattoo. And
how much time do you need before getting piercings or tattoos? How much of a break between each one? Mm-hmm. In planning out large projects.
Yeah.
Planning up and building up for them in general.
Well, the way that's for bigger projects, which is becoming more and more common. Back when, back in the day, smaller pieces were way more common. It was more pick and stick kind of thing. Now the popularity has gotten so much, it's just mainstream. There's no other way to put it. So people are way more comfortable with wearing tattoos, so they're way more comfortable wearing bigger tattoos and more coverage. So sleeves and stuff are almost just a given now. Where 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was rare. If you did a sleeve, it was like, whoa, man, I just finished a sleeve. You could almost count them on two hands. Now it's like a weekly thing. So what's been working really good for me is I ask the client if, have you been tattooed before? And if yes, how long are you comfortable sitting? Where's your comfort range? I know we can all probably sit longer than we're comfortable, but how long are you okay sitting? And some people, they just have a really great tolerance, and really they can just sit there and be quiet and not move and scream and cry and beg for mercy. And other people, they're just more antsy. They just sitting there is kind of painful, So let's say it's a larger piece that might take 12 hours. If they're a person that can sit a long time, we have a 7-hour workday here. I just set them down all day and work on them and decide how much time we might need next time. But actually, I'll back up. When we set up the original appointment, I'll set them up a second appointment 2 weeks down the road. That's about generally what your body needs to slough off that scab, so you're not really going to damage the tattoo. Your skin will still be healing. The tattoo will still technically be healing, but and your skin regenerating for some time. But that scab will be gone. So if you're wiping and you happen to graze across where you've tattooed, you're not going to mess anything up. So then, so after that first setting, then we would determine, okay, we booked you another full day. Are we going to need that full day, or are we going to need more than that full day? If we need more, then I'll set them up another appointment 2 weeks past that second appointment that we already have. I call it kind of leapfrogging these appointments out, and it gets them in the books a little quicker because sometimes we book up a month or two or something in advance, and they've already waited a couple months for their first appointment. It's a shame if they had to wait that long for their second because they didn't have that appointment already set up. So I break it up like that. It usually works really well. 2 weeks is kind of the quickest you can get back in, and some people stick with that. Other people, maybe they'll set once a month for 4 hours. Some people set 7 hours twice a month. So, but that works out really pretty good for me. I don't.
Quickly, if you don't mind explaining why is it 2 weeks? What's a good reason for? Why can't they come in a week when it's still kind of scattered?
Yeah, because
Sorry, I should say closer as I say that. But why is it a bad reason for you to come in sooner than 2 weeks? Why when it's still scabby?
Right. Yeah, about 3 to 4 days after you receive your tattoo, it's going to start building up a protective scab over that, which is perfectly normal. Sometimes it can be as thin as like a sunburn, a tight, really light flake, all the way to I've seen like, oh my God, I just fell on my knees on the gravel, kind of,
Big cookie scab.
Right. Now, you can get great heals out of both. I've seen it. I've seen some heals that just look like, oh boy, that's going to need some reconstruction. And if you don't mess with it, if you just let it do its thing and let your body take care of it, they can heal really well. If you, while that scab is covering, the way I explain it is when the needle enters your skin, it pokes a hole and it pushes a little pigment in, and then the needle comes out. Well, that hole is still there. So your body has to heal your skin up and close that hole, has to cork that hole to keep that ink in there. Well, what it does right away is it protects it with that scab. That kind of puts a cork on that hole, holds that skin, and protects anything from getting into that hole, like anything that's going to make you sick, while your body stitches that skin back together. Once your skin goes, okay, that hole's closed, we all good, everybody? Yep, all right, get rid of the scab, and it'll slough it off and get rid of it on its own time. So when we're tattooing, and if you're working on one piece as you're going, there's a chance to where whether you need to stretch the skin or grab the body part in a certain way to pull a line, that if there's a scab there and you were to pull or dislodge that scab, that cork is basically connected to that ink, and it'll just come out with the scab. So maybe not 100%, but enough of it to where it'll cause what we call a holiday. And it'll cause light patchiness and all that stuff. So we like you to be out of that realm of things before we go back and start, grabbing on you and wiping on you and stuff like that, because we don't want to step backwards. We want to keep moving forward, and it's just better for your body.
Another thing, over traumatizing that skin while it's still healing up, if you're tattooing it, it's already scabbed up and stuff. Doing it while it's not healed up can cause it to sort of scar up later on down the road. You can feel your tattoos, which is not a big thing, but you don't want it. It's not part of the tattoo. It's not the plan. So yeah,
3D tattoos are not good.
Yeah,
not actual cast shadow 3D because your skin is
overworking that skin.
Now what they call 3D tattoos with the drop shadows. Very good. Very good.
Those are cool.
And yes, we do those.
Yes, we do those.
We've covered that before.
We do everything.
Also, is there a possibility of having the design be off or have errors in it because of the trauma that the tattoo has caused? If you do a tattoo, let's say today, and the person comes in tomorrow and wants it worked, will that affect the design too, or not?
Tomorrow, not so much. I've actually had that done and rarely have done it. So if you come back in the next day, usually your body is still going, what the hell happened?
It's miserable.
And there's no real scab there. It hasn't really had time. It's a lot more tender, and boy,
you have to take care of it really good though too. It needs to be wrapped and sealed and stuff.
Yeah, best thing to do
know
is
that you're coming back.
And that'll prevent that scab.
You can't just go, that wasn't bad. I think maybe I'll go work on it again today, and I didn't do anything with it last night.
Yeah, generally that's
not a great idea.
That's planned out.
So when you're planning out larger pieces, how do you normally break that up? I know, like when I had my back done, which is a large Rock of Ages piece, we did the outline on the big part, then we did the shading, then we did the angels. And a lot of that had to do not only with the time that was available, but also my budget.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how would you suggest people work that out? Somebody that can only spend maybe $400 or $500 a month, or whatever they can budget out.
And that's what I was saying earlier about not their comfortability in the chair, how long they can sit. How much money do you have to spend, and how often can you spend that money?
What's your monthly budget comfortable with?
Yeah. So and there's both ends of the spectrum. I have some people that scrimp and save for every hour they get in the chair, and they're more, I guess, not in a bad way, hit and miss on when they are able to come in and get tattooed. Sometimes I got to spend their tattoo money because their car broke down, or their kid needs something, or and then you've got the other people that they're on it, they're on top of it. I mean, you'll see them every 2 weeks for months until it's done. And so it's no different with money and comfortability. It's really on the client. But another thing, like you said, your back piece and how it was done. I usually kind of piece my sleeves together in a way. I like to work till finished on a part and then work on from there. I don't know. That's my process. Sometimes
I've been learning that process by working around you the last few years, and I enjoy it, and I like that a lot better. It takes a lot of pressure off of you, because when you're trying to outline a whole sleeve, a lot of things aren't lines. A lot of places doesn't require a line.
Exactly.
So you're leaving a lot of blood lines and negative space, and let's say it happens to be a customer that usually they come in every month religiously. Something happens. You don't see them for 8 months, and they come back in and hey, can we just pick right back up? And you're like, oh,
I don't
sure.
Where was I at with that again?
What were we doing? Digging through drawings and reference, and what was my mindset?
Right. I would. Usually, what I'll do, somebody comes in, hey man, I've got these pictures. I really like this and this one, and I like the way it does this and that one, and I kind of like the shading the way it is in this one, and I want my kid's name in it somewhere. I'll go okay, and I'll look at their arm. I'll take some pictures of it on my iPad. and probably usually the bigger focal points in the tattoo. If it's not an image I'm super comfortable with, I'll get some reference and I'll sketch it and I'll draw it, and more for me to visually see how it's going to lay out on the skin. Sometimes I'll use that as an outline. I'll stencil it, make a stencil with the stencil machine and stencil it on. Other times I'll have my iPad there using that as a reference, but looking at the arm and really letting the shape of the muscle and the arm and everything kind of guide that line. More so than, okay, I drew this on a flat surface and now I'm going to stick it on here and try to match it the best I can.
Yeah.
So every tattoo is a little bit different. Yeah, generally though, I'll see it in my head finished, but I'll go, okay, we're gonna start with this part today, and we're gonna finish this up. Then tomorrow or the next time we're gonna do the other part here and bring that that stuff up to here, and then we'll do the big thing here and tie it around, and I'll kind of build on it that way.
Do you think it holds your interest and holds your attention longer and better like that? Because I find I lose interest in spots in some big pieces like that.
It helps me because I'm able to kind of focus on this area instead of focusing on this area. I guess I have I know what's going to be there, and I can hold it in kind of a gray area in my mind and not have to focus too much on it right now, and I'll focus on it more when I get there. And if anybody's been doing sleeves and big work for really any amount of time, the background and the movement and everything else really is second nature. People really get hung up on that, and I don't know if you've talked about that
negative
before.
space.
But I don't know what I'm going to do in this little spot here. Like,
You don't have to
just
feel
it's a background,
inch.
man.
So,
Throw in a little shading, a little bit of this
one
and that,
thing-
and accent what's there. Don't, I want to get my
One thing I'd
grandma
like
signature
to
or something.
point out for some of the people planning sleeves or leg pieces or even a back piece is that there's like two categories I try to separate into, is the themed and your hodgepodge ones too.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And
Postage stamp.
and I think we've been kind of discussing a lot of the kind of themed ideas where we you start with a piece and you're building off it, and that's how we're talking about some of these ideas. And a lot of people they come in, they want a sleeve or something big, and they have 12 or 15 or 20 different ideas, and none of them really relate together. And that's it's not a problem to build a sleeve off of that, but those ones aren't something that you always have to plan and rush through.
That's very true.
And touching on these points of negative space that we're talking about here too, because that's what my sleeve is here. It's just it's a hodgepodge of random pieces. Nothing really correlates or fits together. There's a lot of negative space in between of it, but it doesn't bother me. I'm filling those spaces up with the small ones, and then once I get to a point where a lot of that space is taken up by anything I have an idea to fill up those spaces, that's when I start to worry about that negative space. But it's not something that, this has taken me 10 years to put this sleeve together, because it's just random pieces. You don't have to rush it.
I call it the steamer trunk.
Exactly, something like that. Yep.
It's the steamer trunk back in the day. Quickly, you stuffed everything in your trunk, your clothes, your everything. You put it on the ship. You got to the port. They put a stamp on it wherever you landed. And as you travel, there's you end up with all these different stickers and places and ports. And that's like your sleeve is that way. Both of my sleeves are really that way. There's kind of an overrunning theme, kind of up through here and kind of through here. But the fun thing about that is you can get a bunch of different ideas and a bunch of different stories and memories in a relatively small area,
like
instead of going, I want my trip to Paris right here. So
I guess so. My point to that is if you're thinking you want a sleeve, but you've got 12 different ideas, you don't have to necessarily rush to get them all so quickly or whatever. Like some of the bigger, like a themed one is where you have to make it. You kind of want to be diligent about finishing it, like you were talking about, setting up 2 weeks or whatever.
Right. I guess that's very true. I'm looking at someone comes in, they have I don't know, just a dragon idea with a castle on top, and they want it here, and they want the dragon coming down, and then here. Okay,
exactly.
cool.
That's a themed idea sort of thing.
And I can look at it and go, you know what, that's going to take probably 10 to 13 hours. So how do you want to break that up? You want to do 2 all days? Do you want to do it 4 hours, 3 hours at a time? And then you start that kind of rhythm of... But with the, that happens too. A lot of people go, well, I don't know. I got all these days. Well, let's just start with what do you want to focus on first? What do you want to, what I put it is, what do you want to dedicate the most skin to? Because we have a finite amount of canvas on our bodies, and I like a ton of shit, but I only have so much room to wear so much. So I have all this, but you know what, realistically, if I give enough skin to what these things require to look good, I could probably fit about that many. Okay, well then you need to go through and see which ones, and then that'll kind of force you to pick kind of what are your favorite stuff. and then kind of start there.
Yep.
And then you might be able to kind of fidge in or kind of throw in those little ideas.
Yep.
Oh, you wanted a goldfinch because your grandma really likes goldfinches? Okay, well, why don't we do in the background of this tattoo, we do a little goldfinch either sitting on a branch or something.
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. And you can work in a lot of things like that.
Necessarily think it as one big piece of a sleeve so much as it's 5 or 10 different pieces that are eventually going to be put together and connected.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was driving with there too.
Plus the other advantage of doing one piece at a time is it gives you a finished piece on there that you can walk out of the studio.
Absolutely,
and then if things do come up, like, there's a death in the family or a car accident or, something that's going to take your money in your budgeting away from getting tattooed, then you still have a complete piece that can be added on to later.
Yeah. And that's not always possible, but when it is possible,
It's nice.
I like to do that.
Well, I find it's better for the client too because I've got some clients that I started years ago and we're doing these big sleeves and they're intricate and we knock the outline out in one session. Okay, cool. A few hours. Well, they come in and they do 2 or 3 hours again and it's like, well, you did a face or you did like the face, the neck, and the hands. Okay, well, you did all that with like a little 3-liner or something tiny because of all the minute details. And they kind of feel like, they didn't get their money's worth sometimes. They get up and they're like, oh, her face is beautiful. Is that it? Like, well, yeah.
Yeah, that is true. I tell people, really 2 hours is tough to get really get going and really get enough done to where it's gonna be worth you taking the time it takes to drive here, sit here, So I get it. Some people just don't have it in them, and I'll work with you the best I can. But realize too, that is at some level impacting my ability to do the best I can.
Yes.
If I can really relax, focus, you're not pretending or acting or letting me know that I'm torturing the crap out of you because that does it affects you and really it does. It takes a little bit of processing power what you're doing, thinking, oh fuck, I know this is destroying this person's
well, it hurts.
Soul, but it has to be done. This is how the process works. So it's just, I don't know.
And it's something we always have to overcome as piercers or tattooers is the worry of hurting people. Everybody thinks we're kind of a little bit sadistic, but the reality of the situation is the last thing I want to do is cause any additional pain than what I have.
Most of us are the exact opposite. We want to cause the least amount of pain as possible.
Like I say, I mean, the least you're in pain, the longer you'll sit, the more quiet you'll sit, the more happy you'll be when we're done. I don't want to hurt you. If there's a way I could do this painless,
I would.
Trust me, I would. And you know what? I would be really busy.
Yes.
Really busy.
I prefer emotional abuse anyway.
Right, yeah. He's a little different. I mean, there's always got to be one in each group.
With piercing groupings is a little bit different. And when we're talking about groupings, what I'm talking about is things like, labrae piercings that are done into bites or lips, or ear work is the really popular thing now. One of the things that we're always concerned about is how much your body can handle healing at one time. Because if you have, let's say, 5 open wounds on your body for 2-3 months, it's going to prolong it's going to impede your body's ability to produce those without getting an infection. That's why I usually suggest, even when I'm doing just lobe piercings, it's like, so I will ask questions like, are you going to get 2 more? Is this going to be the only one you're going to do? Are you planning on doing groups of these in the future? Do you want me to leave room for it? So there is some planning that's involved. Another thing is, as far as time between, I prefer for that piercing to be completely healed before you come in and get the second one. And the main reason for that is that piercings shift and move during the healing process. There is a lot more trauma impact than there is with tattooing, as far as swelling and discolorization and etc. So if you come back in, even in one sitting, if I'm doing multiple piercings in a tight area, by the time we get to the third one, not only have I had to wipe off the area with saline to get the blood off and everything else to see the damn mark, it may not be in exactly the same spot anymore because the inflammation has already started to happen, which is your blood filling up the area to try to seal up that wound and get a head start on the healing process and fight off infection. That's why when I was asking about tattooing, I don't know if it affects it as much because you guys aren't making as much of a traumatic.
It's more of a general swelling.
Yeah.
So like it's gonna swell in that little area, and that's gonna change the shape of this little area. You're trying to make these minute little things. Where like say a forearm tattoo, if it it's gonna be kind of generally swollen, and it doesn't really affect. But it's very rare, DaVo, that you work on like a fresh tattoo.
Yeah.
Usually it's like convention type
Yeah.
settings.
Situation.
Or like if
Somebody's
someone's
trying to
traveling
get
into
back
town.
or they're
Yeah.
traveling,
Like when I went to California to get my left forearm done, and that's how I did it. 5 hours one day, went back to the hotel, went back the next day for another about 5 hours, went back on the same thing because I wanted to get it done.
Yeah.
I didn't want, I went there to get tattooed.
Right.
I went from the hotel to the tattoo shop to a diner to the hotel to the tattoo shop to a diner to the hotel to the airport to home. That's what I did, So but that's rare.
It's rare, but you usually have a
convention.
dedicated customer, and like the artist and the customer both know that that's what they're doing. So like as an artist, I'm not gonna work here and there all over your arm to make the whole thing miserable. I'm gonna get done what we're doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tomorrow I just got to go into like line work.
That's
or-
another good point. Working in that fashion where you kind of finish as you go, it keeps you from having jumping back because after that area sits there for a minute, it goes, oh man, that sucked. All right, well the nerves can chill
Yeah,
out a
yeah,
bit. All right,
Bam,
let's
do it
go.
again.
And then you
30
jump in
minutes,
there,
I'll
whoa, we were
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that really does, because back in the day, if you read the Huck Spalding A to Z, which is the frickin' Bible of tattooing, if you don't know, get it. If you're an artist, you haven't read that.
You need it. Don't follow it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Just
but,
know your history.
You're kind of taught, or if at least I was, or that the thinking was back in the day, you start with your darker colors and you work towards your light colors, because like I was saying before in one of the other podcasts, that when you make a hole and you with ink in it, and then you say yellow,
darker
you come back with
yeah.
blue and you wipe the
That's
blue over
great.
the top of that hole with the yellow in it, it's gonna contaminate it.
There's a little bit of color change.
It doesn't do that much as we kind of thought. If you're careful and you're really not celebrating it too much, you can get away with it quite a bit. Even if, there's been times where I've had yellow or white, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back and do some blue or some green and something like that, and I'll wipe, and I can see just the faintest little greenish
tinge, yeah.
blue or something tint to that white. You have to remember that to get to where we need to get in the skin, we got to go through all these layers that don't matter. But they're going to get ink too. So when your body goes to seal off that hole, it's only going to keep what we put in that permanent layer of skin. All that stuff in the top is going to slough off anyway. And that's where that contaminated
That blue
or
white.
that
Yep.
bluish white's going to be anyway. So, and that's why tattoos, color tattoos, they brighten up a lot when they heal. They'll kind of get this dinge, and then after that top falls off, you get that solid, nice,
super
permanent,
bright.
pigment under there. So, I don't know where it's really going. Yeah.
We're working in one area.
That's okay. We're
Oh,
following.
the
you.
working in one area,
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
it just kind of makes it, less painful, and it just kind of makes sense in the tattoo, and
Well, 'cause
we don't
a
have to
lot-
worry about that. Well, and I guess to wrap that up. So before we would go, all right, there's this big piece. I'm gonna go in and do my black. So you'd go through, you do
your
all your
browns
black,
and
then you go,
purples.
okay, I'm gonna do my dark greens, and there's leaves all over this place. So I'm gonna dark green. Okay, now medium green. You go back medium, and so as you're working down here, this is going and then you go and then as you're going up here, this is going Then you go back to your medium, your
Just
lighter
keeps
colors.
reopening
It's
it.
kind of the same way with piercings. Everybody always says the second one hurts more than the first one. And that's the way it is. And my theory on it is that your body, the first time you get trauma in an area and it hurts, your body's like, hey, you need to do something about that. But if that happens again, your body's like, you really need to do something
that's
about
good
this.
news.
That's
a great way to
funny.
look at it.
I wonder.
Yeah, because it's like,
Like, hey, dummy!
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just figured because you knew it was coming.
That was fast.
Good reaction time.
It's your dad. You sure you don't want to take it?
Yeah, that's all right. I know what he's gonna call me.
What kind of a
about.
son are you?
A busy one.
All right.
So I think we got that one pretty much covered.
Yeah, I think so. If we missed something, let us know in the comments and yell at us.
Yeah, as always, if you have any questions, please place those in the comments. We will answer them, believe it or not. You've been listening to or watching Q&A in the Kitchen, brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio in Def Before Decaf, which we're drinking today. Fall
deliciously.
as F
Fall
exclamation
as the F
point comma / ing.
Bing. Just say "ing," Davo. Just "ing," say it.
Fall as ing. So, if you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up.
If you enjoyed this, ring that bell.
And if you haven't already, subscribe because you want to see more of this and you want to hear more of this. When you post these every other Sunday, hit that notification bell so that you are notified when we do that. So
and buy merch so we can afford nicer things, so we can bring you better stuff.
We have been improving the set here, and
little by little.
Maybe we can put some money into pyrotechnics and maybe light West on fire one.
Coffee girl. We need a coffee girl.
Yeah,
there we
definitely.
go.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be a good addition.
Yeah, that's what we need to work on. Coffee girl.
Coffee girl.
All right. Support us on Tinder. Oh wait.
That's the wrong one.
Freudian slip.
No.
No. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Be nice to each other, and make sure to catch us on the next one.
Have a good day, everybody.
Good day, guys.